Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody out. This is the Regional Growth Committee of the Wasatch Regional Council. It is Thursday, August 17th. The time, according to my watch, is roughly 9:47. We will have an introductions around the table first, and Andrea will read those members or alternates attending online. I'd like to start, if we can, on my right-hand side, if you can just give us your name.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC.
Mike Sopchak, WFRC.
Brian Horrocks, North Salt Lake.
Beth Holbrook, Utah Transit Authority.
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
Don Ramsey, South Jordan City.
Andrew Gruber, WFRC.
Bob Dandoy, Roy City.
Ted Knowlton, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
I was going to wait a few minutes to introduce myself, and Lorene Kamalu, who had a great run on a trail this morning. Good to see you all.
Jenny Wilson, I'm envious. Salt Lake County.
Laura Hanson, Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, also envious.
Andrea Olson, UDOT Planning.
Kevin Cromar, Air Quality Board.
Wayne Benyon, WFRC staff.
Bert Granberg with WFRC's Analytics Group.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Plan Group, WFRC.
Ryan Anderson, Salt Lake County.
Ellen Peters, Director of Regional Planning and Transportation, Salt Lake County.
Meg Townsend, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Community and Economic Development.
Lila Rosenfield, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Miranda Jones Cox, Government Affairs at WFRC.
Linda Johnson, Citizen.
David Mann, South Jordan City.
Byron Head, WFRC staff.
Lauren Victor, WFRC staff. Christy Dahlberg, WFRC staff.
Hugh Van Wagenen, WFRC staff.
Luis Garcia, WFRC.
Harrison Atkin, WFRC intern.
Okay, Andrea, if you can get us those individuals that are online.
Certainly online, the members and alternates that are joining us. Carlton Christensen, UTA trustee, Ari Bruning with Envision Utah, Council Member Kendall Thomas, Tooele County, Mayor Monica Zoltansky, Sandy. And that's everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I'm
yes,
sorry.
please.
Could I just make a brief note of welcome to the new member that we have? May I?
Please.
Thank you. Dr. Kevin Cromar is a new member of the Regional Growth Committee, serving as an appointee of the Air Quality Board. You all may remember that Mayor Mendenhall served on the Regional Growth Committee as an appointee of the Air Quality Board, wearing multiple hats. She's no longer on the Air Quality Board. The Air Quality Board has now appointed Dr. Cromar. He says, call him Kevin, to serve on the Regional Growth Committee. Kevin has been a longtime member of Transcom and has shifted over to serve on the Regional Growth Committee, and we're really happy to have him here. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Can I get confirmation? Do we have a quorum? Andrew, as far as you know? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to take one action item that deals with the minutes of the last Regional Growth Committee held on May 18th, 2023. Do I have a motion then to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussions? Hearing none. Therefore, do I, all in favor approving those minutes? Say aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Looking for some ayes?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Any opposed? Okay, minutes passed. This is the public comment period. If you have public comment, would you please step up to the mic and just give us your name? And if you have an organization affiliation, just tell us who you're affiliated with. Anybody like to share thoughts, comments? Okay, I see none. I don't believe we have anybody online. Is that, Andrew, is that correct? Okay, perfect. Okay. Chair report. I really don't have anything I want to share, but I want to make one comment. Uh, Mayor Wilson, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, but it is so cool to be hanging with the President of the United States. I watched that on TV, okay? In fact, every station in Utah obviously had it, and that was so cool. You know, I don't know what y'all talked about, okay? But I'm impressed, okay? That doesn't happen very often, particularly in Utah. So well done. That's pretty impressed. So not sure.
I will give you a short little tidbit on what we talked about because I think it's relevant to all the work we do. And it really speaks to, I think, the governor's hope that we can disagree better. On the tarmac, the vast majority of the conversation was about bipartisanship. And he was looking back to earlier days when he was in the Senate. And he was reminiscing on an earlier time when we disagreed better. So I think he was aware that he had a bipartisan group of folks greeting him, Mayor Mendenhall, myself, and Governor Cox, and the First Lady. And that sort of led to this moment of reflection on earlier days and the hope that we can continue to disagree better.
A great comment. Anyway, I was impressed. Okay. It just doesn't happen in Roy and certainly doesn't happen much in Utah, but you made it happen and I'm excited for that. Okay. We're going to item number 4 on our list, which is talking about Wasatch Choice Regional Vision 2023 refresh. Now, let me open this up if I can. Today, we embarked on a significant milestone for the greater Wasatch Front, the broad refresh of our shared Wasatch Choice Vision. Now, the Wasatch Choice Vision is the framework that coordinates near and long-term transportation, land use, and economic development activities. Now, this refresh, Wasatch Choice, incorporates both the new regional growth plan, regional transportation plan, or we refer to the RTP, that was just adopted in May, and the updates to future land use envisioned by cities, towns, and counties. With Utah being among the very fast-growing states in the nation, we have to work together to maintain quality of life. The good news is that that in the face of our rapid growth, we do have a Wasatch Choice planning framework. Today, we're going to discuss the newly refreshed vision and how we want to utilize it as communities and as a region. Now, Mayor Ramsey, our Wasatch Front Regional Council Chair, is going to open up this discussion. Mayor Ramsey?
Mayor Dandoy, I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you, because this has been a very collaborative effort that has taken place over a long period of time. This has been being worked on for quite some time, and we've all had the chance to be part of it. And so I just want to thank everyone in advance for the work that's happened. And we're excited to share this refresh of the Wasatch Choice Vision, because as Mayor Dandoy referred to, we have grown a lot. Things change, they move, they're rapid, our growth is rapid, and I appreciate that this vision is fluid and a living document that we can update as needed as we continue to grow. So the key point that I'd like to make is that, of course, Utah's growing, we all know that, but we have a plan. And I think there's a lot of folks who maybe don't realize that. We all know that, but I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure we remind people that there is a plan, and it's a really good plan that's brought together by all of the partners. Our future quality of life, I want to just read what it says right here under this start. Our future quality of life depends on the choices we make today. Wasatch Choice Vision is our community's shared vision for coordinated transportation investments, development patterns, and economic opportunities. The Wasatch Choice Vision map and key strategies show how advancing the vision can enhance quality of life even as we grow. That's our aim. That's our plan. It's not just aspirational. That is what we will achieve. But it takes a lot of work. We have some key strategies to help make sure our region continues to thrive and our communities are strong. Just running through those very quickly. Transportation choices. It's important that we provide people with real choices in how they get around by driving, transit, biking, and walking so people can easily reach their destinations. Key. Number 2, housing options. Support housing types and locations that meet the needs of all residents. Number 3, parks and public spaces. Ensure ample and convenient parks, public spaces, and open land for gathering and recreating. We all know how critical that is to quality of life. All of these things are important. And finally, city and town centers. Create and enhance city and town centers as the hearts of our communities. Walkable areas where activity is focused with places to live, work, and play. This vision has been put together, as I mentioned, with all of us, our partners, these cities, counties, transportation agencies, the Department of Transportation, UTA, so many partners have come together to make this happen. And it's the right way to do it. This is the way to do it. This comprehensive effort that's a heavy lift. It's elected officials, it's professional staff, it's people at every level coming together to make sure that the right data is shared, that the vision of residents is reflected. And I look forward to hearing from Laura Hansen with an update on our Guiding Our Growth conversation in just a minute. But we have a little video here that we want to show you about this Wasatch Choice Vision, this update about the blueprint for quality of life here in our region now and into the future. So Ted, do you mind showing that?
Utah is growing, and we have a plan. Our future quality of life depends on the choices we make today. The Wasatch Choice Vision is our community's shared vision for transportation investments, development patterns, and economic opportunities. Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the nation, and with rapid growth come challenges and opportunities. The Wasatch Choice Vision was created with broad community input. It represents a shared vision for our future. Its 4 key strategies can help us find solutions as we address challenges and plan for tomorrow in a way that preserves and even enhances our quality of life. Looking at our streets and trails, it's apparent more people want to walk and bike in our communities. Wasatch Choice includes our shared plan for investment to support biking and walking, as well as roadways and public transportation. As Utah's population continues to grow and change, it's essential to offer a diverse set of housing options across the Wasatch Front and Utah for people with varying preferences, at different life stages, and with different income levels. Our outdoor recreation areas continue to face a record number of visitors year after year, not just in the mountains or at our national parks, but also in parks and on trails closer to home. We need more parks and public spaces as we grow. City and town centers are the hearts of our communities. Walkable areas with a mix of homes, jobs, and amenities located by major road and transit connections. These Wasatch Choice Centers give Utahns great options for where to live, work, and play. Where growth occurs matters. While there's no one-size-fits-all approach, as communities grow and work together to implement the Wasatch Choice Vision, we'll see many benefits. Stronger communities, improved transportation, enhanced environment, more housing choices, fiscal responsibility, and a strong economy. Utah's economic strength depends on how easily people can access job and educational opportunities. Growth is still coming, and communities along the Wasatch Front have a plan, the Wasatch Choice Vision, to maintain and enhance quality of life in the face of growth. Learn more about the Wasatch Choice Vision and participate in your community's conversation about how to address today's challenges and create a brighter tomorrow.
I think we should. I think that's great. That simple little clap represents a gazillion hours of work that's gone into all of this by probably a million people, right? Thank you. I want to turn it to Ted, Mr. Chair, if I may, and ask Ted to elaborate a little bit more and share a little bit more on this. But this is something that we should all be very proud of because it's a big deal. It matters. It matters to the residents that we represent, that we work for. It matters to all of us here in Utah. So Ted, if I can turn to you, have you kind
Thanks
of
so
go over
much,
the map.
Mayor Ramsey. I appreciate that. And it's I have to say it's fun to present with you. What you're looking at is the brand new Wasatch Choice website, and we invite you to come and explore it. So everything that Mayor Ramsey went through, including the video, is there on that homepage. And then if you click on this button, Wasatch Choice Map, it takes you to an interactive map that includes the overall vision, and then it breaks it down into component pieces that you can zoom into a neighborhood scale or even a city scale. When we're talking about Wasatch Choice, again, this is a really unusual thing across the country. First of all, it's regional. This covers all the way from the southern part of Box Elder County, Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, Utah counties, but not just the Wasatch Front. Tooele, Morgan County, Summit County, Wasatch County. It really is the broader region, the area that is an economic unit. It's a transportation unit. It has so many interdependencies when we talk about watersheds or airsheds. It really functions as one large place in a way. This is a long-range vision. It's about the actions that we can start taking now, but where they will head and take us to in the future. And it's holistic. So it is the combination of how do we coordinate our development patterns, our economic activities, and our transportation. So what you're looking at there is the region, the overall region for Wasatch Choice. And I'm going to zoom in to Northern Davis and Southern Weber County, and just show you what's on this map in a little bit more detail. I'm going to turn off all the layers. This is the story of voluntary collaboration, and that includes starting with what does each city envision as the long-term framework for how growth unfolds. That includes centers, areas that are, focused intensity, a mix of uses, walkable. They really become kind of the hearts of each community. So you've got centers like a metro center in downtown Ogden, an urban center in Clearfield or in Layton, or a city center such as Riverdale or downtown Roy. Yep. All of these are shown to give you a sense of what that level of intensity is, an example image in sort of an illustrated legend here on the left. Now, there's other important land uses, of course, single family homes, yellow, industrial areas, employment districts, special districts like college campuses that are critically important for the future of our region. And then what is our shared vision for open space and making the most of our assets, including our creeks and our hillsides? What is the combination of the plans of individual cities when it comes to open space? How do those elements then in turn relate to transportation? This is the picture of 2050. So these lines, these freeways, arterials, major collectors, they're shown as if they exist, but this is like the time machine that you get into and you land in 2050, and this is the transportation network that you would experience: roads, public transportation, and bike ped facilities. Now, these reflect the regional transportation plan that has been developed collaboratively with cities, UDOT and UTA, and that we again just adopted in May. And I'll also just make a note that when all this comes together, when you take a look at how transportation and land use come together, this was a process in which, each player maintains their authority over the decisions that they make. So if you're a local government, you're in charge of your land use, and nothing about this changes it. What happened through this process of developing the Wasatch Choice is that there was a question posed to everybody. Hey, what are the transportation projects that we think make sense that would help our quality of life out into the future? And as you think about those transportation projects, let's say the OGX, what are the kinds of land uses that make sense with that kind of transportation improvement, or that actually help that transportation improvement come to fruition? And so each community put forward their ideas for centers. What type of center, the boundaries themselves. So when you see a center on this map, you should know it was put forward by the local government that, that represents that area. Now, yes,
Ted,
please.
can I just interject
Yeah.
for 1 sec? And maybe you were just about to say this, but you're talking about the communities, the transportation agencies. Can you scroll down on the lower left side?
Yep.
I just want to highlight, there's the transportation choices, the legend, but if you keep going, you see partners of the vision.
Yes.
And even though, so WFRC has played an organizing role in putting this vision together, but I want to emphasize something that Mayor Ramsey said. This vision reflects, it's not the WFRC vision, it is our shared Wasatch Choice vision. And so that's why you see reflected here WFRC and MAG, because this covers Utah County as well, UDOT and UTA, cities and counties, GOPB, the Gardner Policy Institute, Envision Utah, the Salt Lake Chamber, and other local chambers. This reflects the coming together and collaboration from all of these entities, public and private sector, and then each of the individual cities and counties working to chart the course for the future. And so I just wanted to emphasize that, that partnership. I'll also say that on the website, what you're seeing on the screen right here, the primary interactive map, on the website, we have a more complete list of partners. And if any of you in the room or online want to add your organization's name and logo, your community as a partner in the Wasatch Choice Vision, you're welcome to do so. Just let us know. Thanks, Ted. Go ahead.
Thanks, Andrew. Now, before I just leave the map, I'll just mention that when you click on any one of these tabs, there's a lot of information that you can get. So if I click on any project, this is our this is our shared test of patience, that this is the adversity that brings us together. Well, it's not me. It is me. Anyway, let me assure you that
Ted closed that little tab. That's what Bert is thinking
close
right
the
now.
tab.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, anyway, the main thing to note here is you can zoom in, you can look at different tabs, and you can get information when you click on individual elements that helps you get a deeper dive. This map is a living map. So as local governments make updates to their planning, we'll bring it in here, and it's just a great place to kind of see what's happening one community to the next. Now, let me go back to the overall homepage and scroll down. As we work together to implement Wasatch Choice, there are 10 goals that the council has adopted that we are working towards on the vision. You can see them here. I won't read them all, but they start with livable and healthy communities, access to economic and educational opportunities, manageable and reliable traffic conditions, and then they go on from there. And we have forecast what would the benefit be if we together, each in our own space, implement our shared framework here, the Wasatch Choice Vision. What would it mean for our quality of life? And I want to give you just a few pieces of information. These are modeled pieces of data. First of all, access to opportunity is this question of how easy is it to interact? How many things can you get to in a typical commute? If you're a business, how many workers or customers can get to your business within a typical commute? And if we implement the Wasatch Choice Vision, which includes city and town centers in strategic locations that take advantage of our road and transit network, we can actually get to 30% more destinations within a typical commute than we can today. A lot of that is from more development activity in those city and town centers. Now, city and town centers would mean more housing choices in those areas. And it also means that people have more transportation choices that cost less per household. Transit, walking and bicycling, or shorter driving distances. And those add up to a reduction in the combined housing plus transportation expenses that a household would need to pay. Now, when we compare two future 2050s, one is a future without the vision, that is, let's say, more growth in centers as one of the key aspects, versus a future without the vision. Here are some of the differences. We forecast that it would mean about demand for 35 fewer square miles of brand new development out in new areas beyond our existing valleys. So 35 square miles less development in the vision scenario. What does that mean? That translates to about $5 billion. This relates to fiscally responsible communities and infrastructure, about $5 billion less of local infrastructure costs. And it means about 3 billion gallons less urban area water use in that future compared to a future without the vision. So it has transportation benefits, household savings, water savings, taxpayer savings, all associated with implementing the vision. Okay, so the vision is voluntary. This is one of the key aspects about it. It is not a plan of force. It is a plan of everybody choosing on their own to do what they can do. Now, we can implement these things individually. We can implement them collaboratively. There are local actions. There are regional actions that we can be engaged in. Mayor Ramsey talked about the 4 strategies: transportation choices, housing options, parks and public spaces, city and town centers. We're illustrating some of these specific things that we all can do together by breaking these down into just a few additional details. I won't read all of these, but they include, hey, we can invest in transportation choices together. We can interconnect most streets so that we're helping people travel shorter distances. We're dispersing traffic. We're actually making it easier to walk and bike. We can grow near transit and all the benefits that come from that. And we can design walkable streets. There's examples like those tactics for each of those 4 strategies.
Ted, can I offer an interjection really
Yes.
quickly here also on these tactics? That Ted said this already. We can't just have a vision, we have to implement it. We have to make it a reality, and everybody has a role to play at every level. So like right now, Ted's talking about transportation choices, and one tactic, it seems simple: invest in transportation choices, roads, trails, and transit. We have been working really hard for years, all of us, on making sure that happens. And not just at the local level or at the regional level, but at the state level, right? Our engagement, the whole message of Utah's Unified Transportation Plan is invest in roads, and it's state roads and local roads, invest in transit, invest in trails, and that has been happening. This is happening at the county level. It's happening at the city level. So what does the state have to do? What does the region have to do? What do the counties have to do? The cities, working with the private sector, all of us have a role to play in carrying this forward. And I hope as we think about this, you're thinking in your minds, what are we doing in our organizations, in my community, to make these things a reality?
Okay, thanks, Andrew. And let me tell you, I'm rounding third base. I'm almost done, okay? We're talking about implementation. This is all voluntary. this website is intended to help. It will help. It includes a lot of tools and resources and case studies. I will not go through these in detail, but I want to give you a sense of kind of the depth of what's here. Maps and data, a lot of information that you can use, public engagement guidebook, resources to help work through specific issues like, hey, do you want to put in a new kind of code? Do you want to work on the form of your streets? These kinds of things. And then there are case studies that tell the story of what's happening in individual communities like Clearfield, Mill Creek, North Ogden. I'll click on one of them and give you a sense of this. These are short little 3-page things of some of the key lessons learned as Mill Creek, in this case, has been creating Mill Creek Commons, their new city center. And so I invite you to explore that. Now, as we take this Wasatch Choice Vision and we take the show on the road, it's a royal we taking the show on the road. All of the partners sharing this together. Some of the outreach activities include the League of Cities and Towns Conference this fall, the Utah Transportation Conference. And I'd love maybe Andrea to perhaps later on to elaborate on that. This is a brand new conference, but that has the lineage from the UDOT conference. There's the KMC Gardner Policy Institute Newsmaker Breakfast that we are planning on with KMC Gardner. Of course, there's Utah's Unified Transportation Plan itself that will be released this fall. We are going to send you some information about November workshops. For Regional Growth Committee, we will talk through and get your advice on how do we take advantage of those workshops, which will both celebrate the refresh, take a look at what's our status together on implementing the vision, and perhaps also do a deeper dive on active transportation and open space planning as we look prospectively. And then there's legislative hearings that we will all participate in as well. Just to give you a sense of some of the things that will be happening over the next few months to share the story of the vision, the importance of it, and as we all roll up our sleeves and continue to implement the vision. Mayor Dandoy, I finally got to home plate on this, and there's a lot to absorb here. I hope that you'll take a chance and an opportunity to go to the Wasatch Choice website, explore it, look in your own community, and be part of the implementation of our shared framework.
And Ted, we'll send out a link as a follow-on to this meeting to the updated website. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. And I don't know, Ramsey, you had a follow-up.
Well, I just would like to wrap up and turn it back over to the chair, who I know is going to open some discussion, but kind of finish where we started. There's a lot for us to be proud of. There's a lot of work for the rest of us to continue to do, right? We've all worked for a long time to reach this point, and we have a lot of work to keep doing, but I have full confidence and again, appreciate everyone's input on this, everyone who's participated, everyone who's worked so hard on this for so long. It's a plan we can be proud of, and it's a plan we should make happen. It should matter. The outcomes, as Ted shared the data about the difference, whether or not the plan really comes together and people implement it or don't, is staggering. Quality of life is key. This is the best way for us to make sure that that continues to happen as we grow. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Ramsey. Wonderful words, great ideas here. I can't help but think it warrants maybe some questions or comments or discussion. Do you have something you'd like to share, some comments or questions to kind of take a little discussion moment here? Please.
So I'm curious how we calculated the housing deficit. I'm looking at some news clips that were sent to me this morning, and our wonderful committed state coordinator for homelessness announced that we have a need for deeply affordable in the 70,000s statewide. So I would wonder how we can all, within our various ways of measuring kind of land on the, and we know we need to do more regardless, whether it's 40,000 or 70,000. But can you, Ted, maybe address how that's calculated?
I'll just note that we don't do that analysis here at WFRC. We rely on the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute for that. And we'll find that that link and share it around. I think that the number that I believe is the most update is 28,000. And we will actually update that video as well. So, but your question about, well, what does that actually mean and what was the method behind it? We'll have to defer to the Gardner
It's
Policy
not
Institute.
to do necessarily with Wasatch Front Regional Council, except to say it might make some sense if we, as Wasatch Front, participated with Kempsey Gardner, with the state, with the county, and we all kind of were, I think, agreeing to what the number is and that we speak. And that's true of other things, right? That one of the challenges for me as a decision maker, I know for all of you, is like, where do we get the most accurate data? Who's compiling it and how does that guide us, right? And I find that we're in the state of Utah, we have this vast amount of information, and sometimes filtering it is one of the challenges. And I find that, I was just curious, and it doesn't really speak to the broad nature of this plan, which is amazing. And I think the idea that the public can jump in and go through this map is it's important, and I think it's critical for engagement throughout our communities. So kudos to all. But on this one point, it would be good if we were one of many partners kind of sift through that and say, here's our framework of discussion around the housing challenge.
I'd love to follow up with you and your team and take a look at that data that you're looking at also. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Commissioner, I think you had a quick question.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if it's really a question, but just some boots on the ground memories to learn from. I started public service as a city planning commissioner where I live in Kaysville. It's a great city. It's by Farmington and Fruit Heights, right? And I just opened up what's here in the case study area for Farmington City's plan and information, and it's accurate, it's wonderful. On there, one of the things that they have, as you scroll down, is they say that they adopted oh, here we go. Date of last comprehensive general plan update and other plans, and they have several things, which I am aware of all of those, and I participated as a planning commissioner in one of those. And it took the better part of a year. This was the Kaysville Farmington Active Transportation Plan. And it was fantastic because it was 2 cities. Tom Millar led it as the planner. And it took the better part of a year and had tons of input from our citizens in both cities. It was a fantastic experience and a fantastic outcome of an actual plan, I think online and in a binder. And this isn't that many years ago. I mean, you can see March 2016 is the date Farmington says it was finished, but I am one who definitely values local government's choices and efforts. And you talked about that, and you talked about that we all have to know this, desire to implement this, invest in this, work together on this, which is all absolutely true. What I've seen in just a few years is that a lot of really good work like the current leadership may not even know about it very well. In my case, I had a binder, and when I was no longer a planning commissioner in 2018, I passed my binder on to Wilf Summercorn, very renowned because he is now a planning commissioner. But this plan was never codified. And I remember Lyle Gibson, who's now a planner in Farmington City, he was interested in codifying this so that it gave it some teeth longer term as development occurred, so that all of these plans would really happen for active transportation. And I'm in the city, I'm watching for things, and I am pretty darn sure some of the things in that plan have not happened as development occurred, And again, I value this effort and this really good work so very much. I don't, we don't want to force folks, but planning commissions are really vital. They and city councils will implement or not so much of all of this. And so I don't know, that all cities really even invest in their people going to the training to have a session where they can look at this and ask all their questions and deeply understand. When I was a planning commissioner, I went to stuff just because I was interested. My city promoted it 0, 0, 0, 0, going to the league conferences or anything where I would have learned, more and implemented things. So I'm just kind of giving like a, all the way down to where the people actually need to know and need to, and then those people turn over. That I think will be a challenge. You know what I mean? Whatever we can do to help those people know as they turn over, I think will be very important.
Okay, I do believe Kendall Adatwilla may have a question to comment, please.
Hey, we do. And I just want to follow up on Commissioner's comments about cities. And we've had 2 cities or areas incorporate Lake Point and also Urda City. And want to make sure that how do we reach out to those folks and, as the commissioner identified, build some knowledge and say, here's some opportunities as a new city coming on. Urda wants to stay rural and keep everybody out of their boundaries. And hopefully that's going to change. And Lake Point's more progressive, I believe, to growth. So how do we reach out to involve these new communities?
That's really a good question. Please, Mayor Renzi, do you have a comment you want to make with that?
I had a comment, if it's okay, but go ahead. I was just going to give a little thought to the commissioner there, that there's opportunities, I think, for us with Wasatch Front Regional Council as a regional growth committee to do some additional educating, but we all know there's a lot of turnover that happens with our local elected officials at every level, right? Not just local. And so there's always a lot of educating to do. That's one thing that I think the Association of Counties and the League of Cities and Towns also has some responsibility for and is working toward. But these are good conversations to have. And if there are specific things that you feel would be beneficial, love to have some follow-up so we can see what can be done.
Can I do
Comments?
a super quick follow-up on that?
UTA trustee Beth, would you have a comment with that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I so appreciate all the comments that everyone has made, because I do think it just shows, again, the connectivity and the collaboration required to continue to do all of this long-range planning. One of the things, and like many of you and most of you, I think in this room, we wear multiple hats. And the discussion about housing is one of those really critical elements. People are very, very passionate about it, whether they want the rural, whether they want, density. And what I think really is going to entail us to continue to do is to figure out strategies to navigate that and to talk about how we are planning. I think it's an interesting dynamic to look at all types. And when UTA looks at the Wasatch Front and we look at our region, we want to encourage strategic density. We want to encourage people to develop at transit stops and look at how they're going to continue to develop this in a way that's going to be valuable. We think that there's value in station area planning so that you can be as dense as you want at any of our transit stops. We want to work with the cities to develop what it is that they envision for this location, for these locations. I had a chance to take a couple of legislators. I took Senator Harper, Representative Christopherson, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Mayor Ramsey, a lot of other groups, MAG as well, to go and take a tour of new ideas for transit-oriented communities, which is how UTA envisions these nodes of strategic development and density. It's how are we going to connect to these areas, and how are we going to bring all of our communities to look at their own respective areas and what can they do to maximize this. And I think that as you look at the HTRZ planning, the state is very interested in making sure that we are doing this in a way that's thoughtful and in collaboration with the cities and with UTA. And how we do that again and communicate that is really going to be critical moving forward. Like Mayor Ramsey said, there is, elected officials turnover, there's different thoughts and different ideas. But at the end of the day, we know that growth is coming and how we manage it is going to matter. So I just wanted to make that comment and thank everyone again for all their work.
Great comments.
I'll be short. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in this room. I look around and think this plan wouldn't be possible without all the staff that's here. And it's great that you guys do the heavy lifting for us as the cities, some of them which are smaller cities, because there's just no way we could ever put something like this together. So thank you. And to Mayor Wilson's point, we had some contentious meetings in here, especially in regards to the gondola, but I think it's so uplifting and powerful that we can come back and go to work with what's been done. And yes, changes will go forward. There'll be adjustments made, but it just shows the testament of these people that we'll come together and we'll get this job done no matter what. Even if we do disagree, we're going to disagree nicely. And so thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Good comments. Please.
Sorry to comment at my first meeting. With respect to the comments on strategic density and the example from Mill Creek about leveraging infill, if the population is going to double, say in 30 years, our urban extent will also grow by 2.5 times. That's just how it grows. And I have a practical question for communities like Kendall and Tooele or South Weaver, like you're showing. As we identify those future roads that don't exist or those parks that don't exist, what financial mechanisms do we have available for these communities to purchase those right-of-ways, purchase that land while it's still affordable, rather than waiting when it gets much more expensive in the future? Are there practical funding pots of money for these communities to make those investments now to lower those costs in the future?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure, I know we're going to step into some funding options here in a second in the conversation. Maybe we can answer that question. But what you just stated, I think there isn't a municipality out there isn't asking that same question. And certainly I would think that there's opportunities, maybe we can do something here as part of a future plan. We can save tons of money rather than waiting for 5 years from now when the price is doubled or tripled. There really has to be a conscious effort, in my opinion, to work that. Maybe we'll get a peek under the tent in terms of what things are available for us to be able to use to answer your very question in just a few seconds. I think there's a presentation coming.
Is that real quick? Two quick things, Kevin. One, as Ted noted earlier, that the way that we absorb growth in Utah will have a huge impact on the amount of additional land that's consumed. And the 2.5 times you said is not fixed, because if we grow in the way that the Wasatch Choice Vision contemplates, creating more opportunities for growth to occur in centers, then that actually will result in less new land, agricultural land or open space being developed to the tune of about 35 square miles. Also, by the way, it helps preserve the character of existing suburban communities if we provide more options for growth to occur in centers. First thing. Second thing, to your point about are there resources available for those fast growing greenfield areas to do the development in a thoughtful way, not enough resources. And I'll tell you that several of us are involved heavily in conversation, sort of under the banner of the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission at the legislature. And these topics are being talked about as we're growing so fast. There's a recognition that there are not enough resources to get the infrastructure done right, to do the planning in those fast growing areas. So you're highlighting an important issue that I think we need to keep working on, and there are not enough resources yet for doing just that.
Yeah, great comment. Any other comments or questions relative to this topic? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much. That was a great discussion. Next topic is going to be guiding our growth, Utah statewide growth conservation update. We have just discussed the Wasatch Choice Vision, but there's a key question here. How do our residents themselves think about growth, and how should we handle it? What are their thoughts on things like transportation, housing, certainly water and open spaces? Now, Laura Hanson, Ms. Hanson, the statewide planning coordinator for the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, is going to preview the results of an incredible Guiding Our Growth survey, where respondents were asked to grapple with difficult trade-offs about growth and infrastructure. While the survey is still open, Today, we are going to be among the first to preview the survey results, which formally closes at the end of August. The results have value for individual local governments, certainly the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and Utah as a whole. Ms. Hanson?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and everyone here on the board. I'm excited to share this information with you. Thanks for letting me share my own slides here. Actually, I made just a couple of minor updates. So this will make sure you have the most current version. And actually, I am also going to tag team with my partner in crime on this, or one of my partners in crime on this. Ari Bruning from Envision Utah is here. But I also just want to give a huge shout out that this has been a very collaborative effort that has involved many, many hours of work from Wasatch Front Regional Council staff, the League of Cities and Towns, Envision Utah, Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute, and many, many others have participated in technical committees and steering committees. And so I think probably most of your organizations here have been involved in some way. So thank you so much. This survey that we've been working on closes August 31st. So if I can ask you to not screenshot and share this with the Tribune or Deseret News, that would be fantastic, because it's not final yet. These are preliminary results, but we have several thousand at this point, and the trend is probably not going to change dramatically between now and the end of the month. So we wanted to give you a quick snapshot of what we're hearing from the public. And I really like the marriage and the complementary role that this effort plays with the Wasatch Choice Vision. We've all been working on these issues for a long time. I think we kind of represent a group of people that have been talking about this for a while and maybe are more educated than the average person on some of these growth issues. And so what seems really straightforward and like a no-brainer to us may take a little bit more work to get the public on board. And so the quick spoiler is you'll be very encouraged by what the public has been saying when you look at these results. They're very complimentary, and I think it's a testament to some of the work that's happened in this space in the past. So quick summary of where we are and the work that has been done so far. We have about 25,000 survey responses at this point, which is pretty phenomenal, I think. And we've reached a lot of additional people that have just been aware of the fact that we're having a conversation, which I think is a win as well. So the little map there shows the concentration of survey responses by zip code. The darker the color, the more responses. It's not showing up great on the screen, but we've had pretty good responses, but you can see there are definitely some areas that are a little bit lighter in the state. We also have done a lot of work to reach minority and sort of hard to reach populations. Youth, for example, are notoriously kind of tricky to get out to. And so we've had a lot of great partnerships, in particular with Salt Lake County on reaching some of the more harder to reach folks. But we've done a lot of work. You can see here, Spanish advertising, interviews with Telemundo. We've offered stipends to community nonprofits. We've been out at community events, a variety of different things. So here are a couple of key takeaways, and then I'm going to pass it to Ari to dig into these in a little bit more detail so you can see what we're really hearing. But key results. So in a top priority in rural areas, and we're going to focus primarily on urban responses here, but there are 3 different versions of the survey: one for urban areas, one for rural areas that are growing, and then one for rural areas that are really experiencing slow to no growth. So just so you know what's happening in the rural space, the top priority is really to strengthen existing communities and preserve agriculture. There's not a lot of desire to continue to spread outward, to creep into ag areas. It's really all about let's strengthen the communities that we have in place. Similarly, but with an urban focus, in the urban areas, we hear a big emphasis on compact development and building on existing infrastructure. So the concept of centers and all of the work of the Wasatch Choice Vision feeds into this really well. When there is new greenfield development that's needed, the preference is for daybreak style park development with parks, open spaces, a mix of housing, very thoughtfully developed. And that exists in both urban and rural responses. Also very strong support for aggressive water conservation in urban and rural areas. And then the last one, we hear from the public, a lot of members saying, can you please just stop the growth? We're overwhelmed by it. Please just, can we just hit the brakes? So we wanted to include in the survey an option for people to select that. And just about across the board, we heard 20% of people just want to try. We tried to make this very educational to say, here are some of the consequences, right? If you stop building housing, guess what happens to the cost of housing, right? But even with that education, about 20% said, yeah, we're not interested, thanks. And that's even higher in rural areas when we present it alongside water concerns or alongside open space and park preservation. So interesting findings there. So I'm going to turn it over to
Laura,
Ari. Oh yeah,
Excuse
go
me,
ahead.
just before you move on, I just want to make sure we're hearing you right. Number two, in urban areas, like most of the area covered by the Wasatch Choice Vision, compact development that builds on existing infrastructure is highly consistent with the centers, city and town center strategy that we were just talking about.
Exactly.
This is a leading question because I know the answer. And then in item 3 about new greenfield development, that gets to Dr. Cromar's point about how development happens in greenfield area and have it be efficient and coordinated.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. So we're all pretty synchronized here, which is great. So, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Ari, and Ari, just tell me when you're ready to go to the next slide.
Okay. First, I want to note that what we're going to show you here is the people who self-selected to go to the website and weigh in. And I want to note that we have in the field right now, we have a random sample survey that's out just so we can validate these results. We have enough people who've self-selected to take the survey that I'm pretty confident that the random sample results will match, but we'll see. But we will have that data.
So in the bottom corner, you can see a number of survey responses. That's out of date. So we need to update that. Sorry.
That is true. Yes. So I'm just really quickly going to walk you through the urban results since we're looking at the Wasatch Front folks here. So if you recall, those of you who've taken the survey, which I hope is all of you, when you look at housing, it gives you 4 options, and then you get to choose which one you prefer the most. Option 4 on each of these topics is essentially the try to stop growth option. And as Laura said, there's pretty consistently about 20% who are choosing that option regardless of the topic. So on housing, the idea is stop building housing. And then for the other 3 options, it's kind of a spectrum of where and how much housing do we allow. So option 1 is let's just keep it away from me out there on the edge. Not a lot of takers for that one. Option 2 is let's also put housing near public transit stations and town centers. Get a little more takers, but the clear winner here is option 3, which is let's also allow some housing within our existing neighborhoods. So basically people are saying, we see the housing shortage. We know we need more housing, more places. And we have not finished slicing and dicing this based on demographics, but I should note that if you're under 35 or so, we're looking at about 75% who've chosen that option 3. So younger people are more concerned about housing, as you might expect. So if you want to go to the next one. On water, again, option 4, about 20% are saying just stop growing. That'll solve our water problems. And then again, there's kind of a spectrum. So option 1 was let's do water-wise landscaping in our new development. Option 2 was let's also do some smaller lots so we use less water in our new development. And then option 3 is in addition to the new development, let's retrofit our existing development with water-wise landscaping so that we use less water. And as Laura said, people are pretty aggressive on water conservation. So you got 61% choosing that one. And then on transportation, these results I find really interesting. So options 1 and 2 are kind of alternatives to each other. Option 1 is let's do walking and biking and public transportation in our town centers. So centers-based strategy. Option 2 is let's expand outward and build new highways to serve those new suburbs. And then option 3 is let's do a balance of both of those. So you've kind of got a bit of a split between let's just do the centers and infill and walking, and let's do a balance. So you can say maybe we ought to do a bit of a balance with an emphasis more on the walking, biking, and centers. So pretty good support for the Wasatch Choice strategy there. And then last topic, open space. Again, you got about 20% who are saying let's stop building housing, and that'll help preserve some open space. And then only 6% are saying let's build a lot of new neighborhoods with large yards so that we have private open space. Instead, what people are more interested in are options 2 and 3. Option 2 is let's do master plan communities that have a lot of parks and trails in them, like Daybreak. And then option 3 is let's grow in and grow up, as opposed to growing outward, and then we'll conserve more open space that way. So those two options tend to be the most popular here. And then really quickly, I want to take you through, if you recall, there's a second half of the survey where we gave people a list of, I think it was 10 big ideas for each topic, and then people could choose as many as they wanted of those big ideas that they thought were worth exploring. We're just going to focus on the urban ones here. On the housing side, for urban people, top strategies: allow more strip malls, big box stores, and parking lots to be redeveloped into housing. Allow more townhomes, duplexes, and accessory dwelling units. Allow more new houses to be built on smaller lots and incentivize smaller homes. And then consistent with those strategies I just read, increase the number of housing units with the potential for owner occupancy. And then there's clearly some interest in thinking carefully about what types of businesses we're trying to seek to attract to Utah. So again, lots of support for the strategies in Wasatch Choice. On the water side, these are the highest numbers that we have across the board. People are very interested in rebates and incentives, natural stormwater drainage systems, low water use landscaping, water recycling and reuse systems, and then more efficient irrigation practices. So consistent with what Laura said, pretty aggressive on the conservation side.
And if I could just put a little finer point, 72% of the survey responses said they are supportive of requiring low water land use landscaping in all new residential and commercial areas. That's pretty notable.
Yeah, that is striking. And then on transportation, these results are also striking. The top 5 transportation ideas from the public in urban areas have nothing to do with roads. So number 1, zero fare public transportation, tied with more bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. And not far behind, more apartments, condos, and townhomes near transit stations and downtown. So a land use strategy coming in there towards the top. Invest more funding in public transportation, and then also public transportation in tourism areas. So very fascinating results there. And then on open space, I think this is probably our last slide. We always see that there's basically a tie between people wanting more natural area recreation amenities. So we're talking trailheads or campgrounds or trails, places you might go somewhere to experience, versus the second one there, which is let's build some urban trails and trailheads within the community. So both of those highly popular. And then you get down into other things about providing more outdoor recreation space within your community. So, whether that's designed with a new library or community gathering places that we build into communities as they grow. And then there's 63% saying let's invest in the preservation of open space through conservation easements or purchases. So that's the high level summary of what we're hearing. These might change a little bit over the next few weeks. And we might also have some slightly different results from our random sample survey. We'll see. And we also have these results by zip code, I should mention. So we'll be able to slice and dice this a little bit. We don't want to cut it too finely, or you get less confident in how representative it is. But with that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, we should be able to say, for Weber County, or for the southern part of Salt Lake County, or the northern part of Salt Lake County. Like, we can break this down by region a little bit and give you more specific information for your areas. So really quickly, I know we're about out of time. Just I wanted to go over some next steps. Here's what we think will be the deliverables of this whole effort. Clear strategic direction on how Utahns want their communities to grow. And we can divide that by the 3 different areas: urban, rural areas that are growing, and rural areas that are not growing. So how do Utahns want their communities to go? Recommendations for strategic investments to maintain quality of life. I live in the state's budget office, and so I foresee some things from this ending up in the administration's budget recommendations. A list of policy areas for further consideration by state and local decision makers. Those lists that Ari was just going through, I think some of those could go to legislators, some of those could go to local governments and say, hey, here are some ideas. What changes might you want to make in response to this? We envision a series of workshops within each of the AOGs to kind of reflect on these results and say, what does this actually mean for our particular region? And what are some actions that we could take? I think the Wasatch Front area is ahead of the game, given the fact that you've got a great vision in place already. And then lastly, a set of performance measures. So we can actually say, are we making progress towards this? And we can come back to it in a year or 2 or 5 years and say, did we move the needle? Did we accomplish what we said we were going to? So that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Great information. I never had a clue. I look forward to having the completion product and be able to work with that. But certainly, when you get it done, may I ask you to invite every newspaper out there to tap into that, to inform that, because I think there is a silent minority or minority out there that may feel a lot different than we see from the more verbal minority in our things. And I think the data that you're bringing together is kind of pointing an interesting picture for us. So great information. Look forward to see how it influences Weber and Davis County. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments on that before we move to the next topic?
Mr. Chair, can I make 2 quick comments? Please. One of the things that's so awesome about the Guiding Our Growth process is that it really asks the respondent to grapple with trade-offs. And so when you all have a chance to take the survey, or if you already have, you'll see when people say, hey, let's grow more in a town center area, or let's provide more infill housing, it prompts the respondent, that will mean more development near single family homes possibly, or it might mean more traffic on local streets. It does bring up the pros and cons of different decisions. And so as much as any survey that I've seen like this, it really helps the respondent kind of answer the options with their eyes wide open. That's point 1. And then point 2, with regard to Wasatch Choice, we take a lot of pride in how collaborative that process has been through the years. We work so much hand in hand with communities, helping them interact with each other and working with transportation agencies. I think it is also fair to say it is not a broad public engagement process. And so we haven't known exactly how would a much larger group of respondents answer some of these questions. And so I didn't know how this was going to come out. And it's really fascinating to see that there is some alignment when residents need to look at, what are the pros and cons of different choices, that they reinforce this idea, hey, look, we need a balance, but we need to lean in with that balance on growth in strategic places to take pressure off of growth in areas that we want to keep stable.
Yeah, great comments, Ted. Anybody else would like to make a comment on this before we move to the next topic? Please.
Thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate all the work that the governor's office and Laura has been doing, and Ari as well. I just wanted to point out that I think even when you look at the rural piece, I know that Ari spoke about the urban side, but looking at that last slide that talked about rural or urban versus rural, even in the rural component, they're talking about clustering of houses. And when you take that and you translate that, no matter the size of the community, that really is the most valuable option. Everyone understands that the longer the water pipe is, the more it costs. And so when you take that data, that really is talking about strategic in a nutshell. So I just wanted to point that out and appreciate, again, all of the work that has gone into this. So thank you.
Yeah, Trustee Beth, appreciate that. That's a powerful comment. Please, Commissioner.
Just one other comment too, because I actually am not on this board at all representing Davis County. I'm an appointee from the Utah Association of Counties. And so just hearing the results from the, most counties in Utah are rural, and that aligns with all kinds of discussions that I have heard from commissioners across the state. Yeah. So anyway, it was good to see that.
Thank you. I think Mayor Zukowski, I think you have a comment out there, please.
Yeah, just want to say, regards to the survey, there's been so much promotion and education about that the survey exists, that's out there, reaching out to across so a broad range of community groups statewide. I want to commend the panel that put it together, that did the outreach, because that's so important, making sure that the survey is representative of a broad cross section of our state and our communities. All politics is local, and we have, as a mayor, Sandy, the microcosm of what's happening across the state, the pressures to build and grow and sustain our communities and evolve in a positive way while encouraging economic development without overwhelming the things that make us unique. And when you look at Salt Lake County, it's the growth is massive, the explosion, population growth, the new infrastructure. But by having the foresight, coordinated planning, regional decision-making bodies like this, taking a long view, it's a recipe for success to sustain us through the next 50 years and develop in a way that we can enhance our communities and our relationships, how we connect to one another within our communities and beyond. So great work. I'm excited to hear the preliminary results, and we continue to share the survey in Sandy, and we are doing our city's master plan, parks master plan, and it all comes down to asking the right questions and eliciting the feedback from a broad cross section. So it's a very inclusive results. So commend everyone. I'm excited to see the final results.
Thank you, Mayor. Great comments on that. Anybody else like to share a thought before we move on? Oh,
I was just going to say thank you
Please.
to everyone for all your great feedback and comments and participation and help promoting the survey. It's better because of all of you. So thank you.
thank you. And great work. We certainly look forward to it. And thanks for great presentation. You certainly have opened my eyes to some interesting data that I was not aware of. So thank you so much. Interesting, this leads into very effectively leads into our next topic, which is going to talk about stationary planning. Now, as you well know, the Wasatch Choice is a planning framework for our region. While the planning and zoning details are worked out within each community, stationary area plan is an effort to work through those details around train stations, or in this case, transit stations, which are key areas to effectively accommodate growth in Utah. Now, many Wasatch Choice centers are developed around these transit stations. Now, under House Bill 462, and I certainly have read that a number of times, that was generated to us in 2022.
You helped write it.
I understand. It was an interesting one.
He didn't just help write it, he helped envision it.
Cities with transit stations are required to develop stationary plans that address shared goals such as housing availability and affordability. But the cities decide how to do it and maintain their local control over that land use. Now, the Wasatch Front Regional Council, as well as MAG, are giving two primary responsibilities under House Bill 462. Provide technical assistance to the cities in developing their SAPs or stationary plans, and certify the stationary plans satisfied to the statutory requirements. Now, today we are going to consider two station areas for certification. the Roy Frontrunner Station, which I have a personal interest in, and certainly the South Jordan tracks. Now, as mayors of these two jurisdictions, I will say a few introductory remarks. Okay, will take place, and then I'll assume Mayor Ramsey will provide some remarks before we address her South Jordan. Are also here to elaborate and answer questions that might be helpful. But first, to kind of do a great introduction, we're going to ask Meg Townsend, our Director of Community Economic Development, to discuss these items. Meg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go over the requirements of station area planning really briefly. You've heard it before, but just making sure everybody recalls those objectives and requirements. And then yes, as the mayor said, we'll consider 2 station areas for certification today, the Roy Frontrunner Station and a station in West Jordan, the station area of which goes into South Jordan. So recall, even if the station is not in your city, you may be required to work on a station area plan due to the radius. So let's jump in here. Okay, the goals of station area planning: increase the availability and affordability of housing, promote sustainable environmental conditions, enhance access to opportunities, and increase transportation choices and connections. Just as a note, we just talked about the refresh of the Wasatch Choice Vision, and even more than ever, these 4 goals essentially mirror the 4 key strategies of the vision. So as the mayor said, it's fitting to transition right into station area planning from that conversation. Those goals are intended to be implemented through these 5 key components that every station area plan needs to include, and that is a vision, overall visionary document, a map that shows that radius within a ½ mile of fixed rail and a ½ mile of BRT, a 5-year implementation plan that details how the city is going to implement that along with partners like the private sector and others, a statement describing how those 4 objectives are met, and it needs to include public and stakeholder engagement. There are a few key stakeholders identified in the legislation among the general public. In order to accomplish all of that, of course, the MPOs have technical assistance to help. So we have 5 million combined between the Mountain Land Association of Governments and the WFRC area that is being programmed in partnership with UTA and the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. The Roy plan that we'll talk about today is actually the first plan adopted that was funded using this money that was appropriated in 2022. So that's really exciting and really quick. Planning takes a long time. So I commend Roy for getting moving quickly and adopting that. Finally, just an update on where we're at with station area planning. You'll see this a lot and it'll be different almost every time you see it because cities are working quickly on this. The 2 on the end there, that's the Farmington Frontrunner Station and the Salt Lake City Ballpark Station. Those are the 2 that we've certified so far. Just before that, you'll see a 1. That's complicated because we're going to consider 2 plans today. One of them is just a station that's in another city. So we're going to find a better way to report that progress to you here. But while there are 95 stations, there's some slices of those station areas all over the place. So there's about 126. We could certify 126 of these. Anyway, we're working on it with you. So if it's complicated to you, just call us. 17 applications have come in for station area plan technical assistance so far. This is a piece of a much bigger progress update that's available online all the time. It looks like this. We can print you a copy. It changes a lot. So check back frequently if you're ever curious about where we're at with this.
Hey, Meg, just before you move off of that, I just want to note, last week in the legislative interim, we were invited to provide an update on station area planning to the political subdivisions interim committee. So we did that jointly. WFRC, MAG, the League of Cities and Towns, and UTA gave an update on this really major legislation that is having an impact and how it's sort of rolling on your screen from left to right and rolling across the region. And I would just say that the general reaction from the committee was, this work is going well, keep it up. Fair summary?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to jump into the first of our stations. Maybe I'll pause there. Are there questions on the overall requirements of station area planning? Okay, everyone's an expert now. I love it. So Roy, that's our first one we'll consider today, the Roy Front Runner Station Area Plan. Zooming in on that with our overall vision, that little star up there. This is really, most of these station area plans, right? All of these are a direct implementation of our Wasatch Choice Vision. Those orange polygons you see throughout the radius of the Roy Front Runner Station are Wasatch Choice centers that have been identified with Roy as places where Roy's going to focus their growth, their walkable development, those things. So really implementing the vision here through one of our station area plans. The Roy Front Runner Station the station area plan builds on work that we've been doing for a while. In 2016, the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program funded the Focus Roy Plan, where we started this work and continued it through that money through GOYO with this adopted plan here. It plans for TOD in an area that's topographically and access challenged. It's on a really steep hill. The Front Runner rail kind of cuts off access in a lot of ways. So this plan is really looking at enhancing access to the station. The proposed plan calls for over 2,000 housing units to go into the area, a wide mix of what kind of units those are. And some of that is senior living community as well, which is really fitting at our transit stations. I'm going to turn to Steve Parkinson to give us the details of this plan, and then we'll have a chance to look at the documents that were submitted and have discussion.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment real quick, but if you don't mind, let me just give you my perspective as mayor. First thing, and Steve's going to certainly step into the more details about this, but let me share a thought. We've been waiting a long time for this. For over 2 years, we have simply gone in and changed our ordinances, set in motion a plan that we had in terms of vision, what we thought for this. And we're finally very close to that. We certainly have watched other cities, certainly Clearfield, as you watch that one unfold, Ogden. These are local to us, as they've been able to take advantage and move out on those. And I will tell you personally, we've been waiting patiently, but recognizing the fact is every municipality that has these transit opportunities need to step up. Not hard, not easy to do, but need to step up in the framework by which we work with the broader community to start adding to the solutions that are out there. And there's certainly solutions that are in a broader context of this broader community we need to provide. Today, in a few moments, Roy City is going to now get to where they need to be to make that happen. And it's a long time coming. We're excited about it. We certainly have engaged our community about this. We've got input from all the players. We are ready. Roy City now needs to step up, okay, and be part of the solution. And we're about to do that. Let me introduce you to Steve Parkinson. He is, in fact, the city planner. I'd like him to go into more detail and certainly entertain any questions you might have about what Roy City is liking to do. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. The sad part is Megan took part of my presentation. The mayor has as well, so I'll sit down now. No. I just kind of give you an idea of the station itself. You got both the DNRG trail that's in some cases hundreds of feet away from the active rail line, especially at this station. You get 4,000 South, which is a local road, Midland Drive, which is more of a UDOT high traffic road. As you can see here in this little image, it's mostly single family residential. So when the station came, it was already had approximately 1,500 or 1,600 homes already in the location. So when it came, so just kind of give you an idea of it. The green is the DNRG trail. The blue is the active rail line. You got I-15, I-84 over there in Riverdale. We're surrounded by Sunset, Clinton, West Haven, Hooper, and Riverdale and Ogden. There's 15 existing commercial businesses. They're mainly over on Midland Drive, which is kind of that angled road on the side here. existing homes, there's 1,000 roughly single-family homes, 429 mobile homes, 91 townhomes, and a single 31-unit senior unit. It's just over there on 4,000 South, just north of the Front Runner Station. Within the half mile, there is 73 vacant acres, or 73 acres of vacant land, and 65.31 is within our plan. Of that, there's also 23.11 undeveloped or underdeveloped acres and 21 within our plan area. Of those landowners, UTA owns just about 18 acres of this, and Roy owns just about 10. So, excuse me. So as Megan alluded to, back in 2017, we adopted what we call Focus Roy, which was what we thought was a station area plan back then. But we looked at both the Front Runner Station and our downtown. We started this process in 2016, had adopted in December 2017. This kind of gave us our roadmap of what to do and where we need to go. Granted, this was long before the state legislation got involved with what we needed to do. So the first two things that the Focus Roy talked about was we needed a new general plan. The last time it was updated was 2002, and we need a new mixed use code for both Front Runner Station and downtown. So the process started in 2018, was trugging along quite quickly, and then COVID hit and it screeched to a halt. But we managed to adopt a I'll say form-based code. We call it a mixed use code. It became a swear word if you said form-based, so we just said mixed use. So in 2021, we adopted both the downtown and the Front Runner Station and divided the Front Runner Station into 3 zones: Station North, Station Central, and Station South. So this is kind of a chart of comparing the Focus Roy station area plan with what the requirements were in the legislation that came about for requiring these things. So we were close, but still had a lot to do. The great thing is we had just adopted the zoning ordinance. So we had town hall meetings, we had neighborhood meetings. The mayor and I became, I won't say public enemy #1, but we were up there. Not a lot of people were excited about it, but knew it needed to happen. So we kind of backed into this station area plan, having just taken off of what others had already done and started from years before. So in this process, we had 6 overall meetings, 3 stakeholder meetings. When I say stakeholders, it was, staff and public officials, residents. We invited all existing landowners within the vacant areas to give their input. We also invited UTA, UDOT, and believe it or not, Union Pacific. They declined to come, but at least we got with them. We had a couple meetings of, what are your ideas? So we had some scenarios that were generated. I thought was a great success on participation. Many of the landowners had those opportunities to give their opinion, give their thoughts. And so what we've come up with is really theirs plus our community officials. So as Megan alluded to, kind of the area that we focus more on the vacant land. We're not going to tear down single family homes that already exist. But when you look at it, Station North, which is north of 4,000 South, which is the white line, we've got 2 higher density areas. They felt comfortable having higher density north of everything, which is more flat land. The height actually, and I'm going off of zoning already, so it's in place, even without the adoption of this. We can be 60 feet tall in a kind of a rural subdivision or a suburban area. As you get south of 4,000 West, Station South, we were trying to protect the single family residential from having really high density, really tall buildings. So they really more townhome type scenarios, 18 units per acre. The Front Runner Station which is kind of in red, is mostly what UTA owns. So they were able to go a little bit higher on density, a little bit taller on buildings. But a lot of that was because, as Megan alluded to, there is a slope. So they didn't have too big of an issue. The greater thing is the senior living. This was something our Focus Roy didn't even talk about, something our zoning ordinance didn't talk about, but this came out during those input meetings with the public. We need senior living. And this was it's 18 acres of a site that could accomplish that. So just kind of go quickly because Ted's telling me it's time. Here's kind of the overall area of it. Kind of in general, we'll kind of go closer again, the station north. It's higher density apartments, 4 or 5 stories. You get to the station itself. We talked about mixed use, so allowing commercial, allowing residential within it. So it's higher density. Then you get to the station south, which again, you have the senior living. And I put this in red. We actually already have a development of about 300 townhomes to be in between the DNRG trail and the live tracks. It's already gone through planning commission, so they're just going through the site plan approval, or not approvals, but submittals for construction. And then, of course, as Megan alluded to, it's hard to access this site. You either go to 4,000, which is a single lane each direction, no sidewalks that you cross, or you go on to 4,800 south, which is a half mile down, and you still have to trudge through it. So in the plan, we talk about having a pedestrian pass either over or under, and then having connections throughout the place, both on the east side and the west. So with that, that is our plan. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, we do have. Ms. Hanson, you have a question?
Just a comment, really, actually. I love the fact that you have senior living in this plan. If you look at the demographics that are and the changing demographics for our state, we're going to have an aging population. And I don't know that we're really prepared for that in our state, or that we're thinking about it enough. And so including some senior living within this, I think is really thoughtful. And I hope that we see more of that in our region as we're going other. The other thing that I was going to comment on too is I really love the incorporation of not only office, but also retail in your station area plan as well. I think so often we think of concentrating residential and office, but we forget that there are other sort of ancillary needs to really make that a complete community. And if you work in an office building, you need a place to get lunch. And if you live there, you need a place to get a gallon of milk. And so I really like that incorporation as well. Good job.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Trustee Holbrook?
Well, first off, this is a little bit of a history lesson, so I apologize in advance, but I can't go without saying this. When I first started in this role, UTA had a maximum amount of station areas that they could develop. And Mayor Dandoy was one of the critical mayors who helped us to allow development on all of our sites. And so kudos to Mayor Dandoy on this. He was way back there in the vision piece. And I wanted to tell you that stationary planning actually started from a proposal of mine to the Commission on Housing Affordability. And this is where this nexus, I think, is so critical. Representative Waldrop, Senator Andrig, oh my goodness, Andrew Gruber, Cameron Deal, the League, everybody embraced this discussion because we know what we are looking at when we look at the just the geographical constraints that we're faced on the Wasatch Front. And I just wanted to say, this could not have been done without this collaborative ideas and thoughts behind all of this. And so I just wanted to thank everyone who's been involved in doing this for years and years. I've known Roy City in my previous iteration, and I'm just so excited to see them come to this fruition. So thank you.
Can I briefly build on that?
Please.
With kudos to Mayor Dandoy and to Steve. We've been talking with the mayor about this for years. And I think it's fair to say that it takes a tremendous amount of work and perseverance, including critically engaging with your community. And the mayor and I have had lots of conversations over time. about that hard work that then comes to this fruition. Mayor, we are thrilled to have been able to play some part in helping you and your community with the grants and technical assistance through our Transportation and Land Use Connection Program, which is a collaborative program. We're just so thrilled to have been able to help you. And this kind of goes all the way back to where we started in the meeting with the Wasatch Choice Vision and Ted talking about tools and resources available to communities around the region. Salt Lake County contributes to the TLC program, UDOT, UTA, we're all working together to be able to help communities do these types of things in the way that makes sense for your community. But Mayor Dandoy, you in particular personally have put so much into this. So thank you.
I appreciate that comment. Certainly a team effort. Let me just make one comment and I'll try to get off the page on this discussion. I said when I first came into the Wasatch Regional Council, Royce City is a small municipality. We certainly are nothing like the bigger cities, the Salt Lake cities, and certainly other cities within the broader community. We just don't have the kind of financial resources to kind of do the kinds of things that you're seeing unfolding here. And then we learned, okay, about what Wasatch Front Regional Council could do for us. And not only just the helping with funding opportunities, but provide technical assistance. When we were aware of that, we tapped into it. And I would honestly ask any municipality, irregardless of their size, who simply says, I need to get something done. I need to see a future in my organization. Please consider, okay, the resources that you're going to hear about today, you've already heard about today, that are available to you to really make a difference. We don't have to be in isolation just because we don't have big populations. We can make a difference and contribute to the process. I will tell you, everything that Steve has talked about today, from the very beginning in terms of Focus Roy, the Wasatch Front Regional Councils had their fingerprints written all over it. We certainly had the ambition to move it, but we didn't have all the resources necessary to make it happen. This organization certainly had made that happen for us, and we could not be more appreciative. So think about that as you start to think about the future. Kevin, I think you have a quick comment.
Quick question about the plan. The mobile home park in the northwest part of the area, do they own the land under their homes? And if not, does the plan speak to how to protect displacement in the future?
It does not, unfortunately. They don't own the land that the trailers are on. It's a park itself that owns it. Yeah, the plan doesn't really talk about them specifically, so.
Yeah, the plan doesn't, but I will indicate to you in talking with them, Kevin, and it's a really good point. They would like access to the UTA's Rio Grande Trail system and have better access to that. And we're making arrangements and looking at those options. We think, even though we find sometimes elderly people in those, and I'll refer them as affordable housing units, because they're very nice housing. I mean, those trailer parks are great and they certainly are affordable. They just like to get more active transportation opportunities. And so we think that's going to work. And having the trail access and making that so close to the Front Runner Transit Station, I am telling you, we're going to be able to draw existing population residents, okay, to now take advantage of that. And I think Steve alluded to this. That may very well include trying to get from the west side to the east side to the train station, some type of a bridge or some type of a tunnel where we can make it so convenient, so easy for our residents to take advantage of this mass transportation opportunity. So the people love it there, interesting enough. They manage their kind of their own thing there. We like them, to be honest with you, even though people don't necessarily like to talk about trailer parks, we like them there in large part because they're a great community, they take care of themselves, but equally important, okay, it's affordable. It honestly is affordable, and it works well for us. And bringing them close within this half-mile radius, and they are really kind of in that, I'm telling you, we see some very good opportunities there too. So we'll keep working with them. Any other questions or comments? Please, Commissioner.
Just to put an exclamation point on what you just said, the cities that I have seen that begin to understand what Wasatch Front Regional Council offers and all of the partners to make progress and to get where they need to go with inevitable growth, right? definitely are the ones who start to take advantage of technical assistance and the grants that are available. That Kaysville Farmington Active Transportation Plan was enabled by a grant for the two cities by Wasatch Front. And again, you know, the two cities hadn't budgeted that. It's hard to budget things in cities. You're just taking care of the basics, right? But to really start to learn, and it just takes people who are open to that in the cities. Sometimes it's residents even that become open, but especially the leadership. So great job.
Great comments. Thank you. Any other comments before I go to the next step, please?
So I believe that as I was sort of like looking at some of the planning efforts in this region, there was a discussion on the horizon of some planning efforts surrounding the airport, which I believe is part of Ogden or West Ogden. But regardless, I'm just wondering if this plan sort of contemplates any changes or any future planning efforts that might go into the airport, which is sort of somewhat adjacent.
The plan really doesn't address the airport just because it is beyond the half mile. Focus Roy did talk about it having some sort of bus or trolley or something connecting the front runner to the airport to Tealfield. So we do have other portions of in our general plan we just adopted as well in 2023 talks about those connections and how important they are.
And that really good question just reminded me, I mean, the base is right there and the traffic, you know, at certain times and the volumes of people even in all of the civilian work that, you know, is on the west side of that base. I mean, I'm sure you had all of that in mind, but any little thing you want to say that's supposed to help the traffic and the base?
Other than 5600 South there, the north portion of is going to be widened, and so along with the interchange as plans for. We're hoping construction starts soon. I know there's a lot of homes and buildings that have been demolished in preparation, but the general plan does talk about it. Transportation master plan does talk about getting those in and out. You got the 3 Gates Trail we're hoping comes in line to help with, you know, pedestrians and bicycles. And then, you know, some sort of trolley from the front runner to Hill Air Force Base would help as well.
Yeah, a great question. And I will indicate to you, again, part of this overall vision in terms of how we address transportation opportunities. We're working obviously with UDOT legislators to kind of make sure that we modernize to the extent that we can, okay, those public right-of-ways, those public transportation modems, so that we in fact can move the population to make it easier. But to your point, Roy City, and I can't speak for other cities, but certainly it's a discussion point. We've changed the ordinance in our downtown to a mixed-use development, and we're going to encourage the opportunity for those people who work at Hill, for an example, can walk to work, literally from our residential opportunities downtown. So changing a more holistic look in terms of how we address both the commercial and the residential components, I think is critical to this. And it all falls into this idea about, I got really open spaces we want to keep open, and we certainly want to make sure that we basically meet the needs of and provide choices to our residents. And we're working that. So it's exciting. Well, with that then, Steve, thank you. Okay, appreciate that. I'd like then to move to action number 1, or action A in this case, is consideration of stationary plan certification requested by Roy City. I must say to you as mayor, I will sustain from voting on this, but we'll look for someone else to make a motion to recommend the Roy Front Runner Station area plan to the Wasatch Regional Council for certification. So with that, Megan, if you kind of like to lead that, I need somebody to make that motion.
Mr. Chair, if I could add, just according to our policy, WFRC staff is making a positive recommendation to certify this plan. So we did review, look at all those requirements, and we're making a positive recommendation to you.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Just one clarifying point. This is a recommendation to the council that will take final action next week. Okay.
I heard of the motion in a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. Okay, we look forward to this. It's going to be a great movement for Roy City. Thank you. Now let's
Okay.
consider the South Jordan Track Station at 4800 West and the Old Bingham Highway. This is a little different than the other Regional Growth Committee that has considered, because there are some, for a better word, impracticalities, okay, of some of the stationary plan requirements that are being noted, okay, at South Jordan. Meg will introduce this, and then we'll turn to Mayor Renzi for comment. Meg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this one's a little different. So this is looking at it's a West Jordan station. We're looking at the South Jordan portion. It's a little fuzzy, but below that red line that you see that cuts across Kitty Corner and then the south portion. So, and this is the 4800 West Old Bingham Highway Track Station. The case in South Jordan is such that we're looking at the impracticability and the prior actions piece of the code. That was a code change made last year, was to look at actions taken before 2022 in cities that satisfy the requirements of the station area plan by satisfying those objectives. And it also looks at impracticability in meeting the requirements of those. And really the case in South Jordan is that most of that station area is single family homes that do not look like they're turning over anytime soon. There's also the Glenmore Golf Club within the station area. And there's really little to no anticipated redevelopment in the next 5 years, which is the horizon of this planning work. The city has done things to make this a better place to be and more accessible to the station. Bingham Creek Regional Park is being developed within this station area, and that's accessible from the station via 4800 West on a bike or ped facility and the Bingham Creek Trail. There's also the city has worked to implement connections to the station in other ways here. Internal ADUs are allowed within the single family homes in the station area, and that is likely the only potential for additional housing here for now. Mayor Ramsey, I'll turn it to you to make comment.
Thank you. I'm not going to come up front because I don't have a presentation. This is fairly straightforward. It is unique. It is unique. And part of why I appreciate the flexibility of House Bill 462, because this was what came to my mind as all of those conversations were taking place. We have other stations in South Jordan City that are in the Daybreak community that we are doing great work and took advantage of the state this year, passing the housing transit reinvestment zones. We're doing great work at those transit stations that provide some opportunity. As you see, our side of this transit stop in the required radius is already full, and people have all, spent their money to buy their homes, and they're raising their families there, and there's a church there, and we worked incredibly hard in our city a number of years ago along with the public to preserve and protect the Glenmore Golf Course. There's not an opportunity for redevelopment right here next to this station, and so I can't show you any cool plans because there aren't any here. But we have other ones that we're going to bring forward from some of our other stops, and we've also got a front runner stop along I-15. There are other cool things happening, but as far as redevelopment and really coming together with this vision, that already took place, and there is no additional opportunity. But I do appreciate Meg pointing out that we allow internal ADUs, that we've got critical open space, accessible work with the county together, developing Bingham Creek Regional Park. There's a lot of good work that's taking place, but on the South Jordan side of this track station, what is already existing isn't going to change. We're not going to go take people, we can't take people's homes away. We're not, we would never do that. And so it is our submission that the work that's already been done and everything that's already existing there, which does not include available developable land, meets the requirements. We've worked closely, our team, our staff, our elected officials, we've worked closely to make sure that this actually fits exactly within the law, but that's the beauty of how this law was created for a few unique things like this. One size does not fit all with station area plans, and this is one of those that it's very different than what we just heard from Roy because it's already built out, and families have already invested their money, they own their property, they own their homes, and we've already got a built out area there. So I would ask that you would consider and affirmatively vote to recommend certification of this station area plan because it does meet all of the requirements that are allowed in the HB 462 requirements, the provisions that were left in that.
Thank you, Mayor. David Mann, who works obviously in your city, I understand is available to answer any questions.
I have a comment. I do understand the point that you're making, Mayor, but having just been out on site and knowing of the regional park that's southwest of the course, I think that this stop, and maybe we could do some joint promotion around it, is such a great opportunity for people to bring their bikes or their walking shoes, because the connectivity from that golf course headed west and beyond will allow you to connect all the way over to future development, all the way, hopefully, if we can complete the plan, to the new trails that are currently or soon to open in Yellow Fork and gosh, what am I trying to say? Yellow Fork, Butterfield Canyon. So I was on site recently, and it's actually at the course, and I was like, oh, it's too bad we don't have some access with transit. And like, well, wait a minute. So I think from a recreation point of view, this meets our objectives.
I appreciate her pointing that out. Can I just comment? Thank you for that, because I agree. Not all station area plans are going to be able to be, can we put a full center here with live, work, play right here around this center? This is a good recreational opportunity. It's very real, and a lot of work's being done, a lot of work, a lot of investment, a lot of collaborative work to make sure that we can connect these trail systems on the west side, on the southwest side. This is a good hub for that, but we're not going to be able to change the housing that's in the area necessarily. So
Great
Mr. Chair,
comments, Mayor.
can I make one
Torgo?
quick comment?
Yeah.
I think this is exactly what we want to try to see. And with a few minor tweaks, we can really create this. You can have increased signage to your recreational areas. You can redo some of your sidewalks and other connectivity ways. First and last mile solutions, again, I think are equally critical, and connectivity is the goal. And so I think that this really does, it encompasses the fact that when you look at a station area, you have to also work with that community from UTA's perspective. And I think that that really speaks to how we can increase connectivity by doing what I would consider to be relatively simple things like that. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful comments. Okay, any other questions or comments before we?
I have a really, really quick, and I know we're running late. When I was at UTA, trustee, your planning team was starting to work on an access to transit study, kind of looking at all of those pedestrian connections. Is that still a project that's underway?
It is still a project that they are looking at. It's not fully fleshed out yet. And so I don't have anything other to say other than that. So
just to note that people, there's thoughts about this. Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Perfect. Okay, Megan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Closing comments here?
Importantly, of course, staff has reviewed everything that's been submitted. We are making a positive recommendation for certification. Within your packet, there's the resolution that was adopted by South Jordan. Now, that's one of the requirements of the bill, is if you are going to seek impracticability or seek that prior actions fulfill these requirements, you do have to adopt a resolution as a city that reflects all of that. That's in your packet, along with the form submitted by the city, the checklist that our staff performs and provides to you, and the resolution that we would sign as the Wasatch Regional Council would sign if certified. So back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. Okay, with that, then I make a motion to recommend that South Jordan 4800 West, the Old Bingham Highway track station area plan to the Wasatch Front Regional Council for certification. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dave. Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, it's approved. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I point that I also chose to abstain from this vote as mayor of the city, but really appreciate the support and the understanding of the good work that one size does not fit all. We're all doing the very best we can with our own individual circumstances, and every community's flexibility to do so is why this is key. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we now move on to the next topic, which talks about information funding opportunities. let me just make a couple of comments before we turn it over to Wayne. We talked a lot about vision and then the implementation through in more detailed planning. And now we'll talk about implementation also through funding. We'll talk first about the Wasatch Front administering funding programs and then a few UDOT funding programs. The Wasatch Front Regional Council's funding opportunities. You want to switch that? We can do that. Okay. Why don't we switch that? We'll move to UDOT first. Now for them, the funding opportunities, then we'll go back to Wasatch Front and I'll explain some of those. So with that, Andrea, I think you're going to share some thoughts with us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for flipping the agenda a little bit, Wayne, for sure. I want to talk about these. There's some pretty exciting opportunities for partnerships in UDOT funding for multimodal transportation infrastructure here. So I'm talking about UDOT is right now taking nominations for 4 different project types. So we have the Transportation Investment Fund, which covers highway and active transportation. And then we have the Transit Transportation Investment Fund, which covers first, last mile projects and transit projects. So projects that connect to transit and then transit itself. Notably, this does not include the Utah Trail Network or the Active Transportation Investment Fund that both came out of the 2023 legislative session. That's all being handled under a different program and a different group at UDOT. So this is nominations. The nomination window is open right now. It is open for 2 more weeks. It closes on August 31st at the end of the day. And I would encourage you to go utilize our website. And Jordan has pulled it up here. It's projectprioritization.udot.utah.gov. And if you go to the nominations tab at the top there, it takes you to, there's an icon there for each of the different 4 project types that I talked about. And like I said, we are accepting nominations for each of these different project types. So the TIF Active, TTIF Transit, and TTIF First Last Mile operate a little bit differently. If a local government or a transit district nominates a project that is eligible, and by eligible, I mean that it adds capacity, it's a paved surface, if that's appropriate. It can, if an active transportation project can demonstrate that it could potentially relieve traffic congestion, that you can show the local government match. So 30% for the transit and first last mile, and that's a 40% match on the TIF active transportation. And then also show operations and maintenance, being able to fund that over the coming years. If it can meet those conditions, then a project is eligible and it will automatically be prioritized for potential funding by the Utah Transportation Commission. On the highway side, you can nominate a project, and the Utah Transportation Commission has the ability to add projects to the list. The list of projects that gets prioritized is all of the phase 1 projects on our collective regional transportation plans and the Utah Transportation Plan for the rural areas. If a project is on a state route over $5 million in cost and included in phase 1, it is automatically on that prioritization list. Like I said, the commission has kind of a safety valve to add projects to that. And so that's where those nominations come in. So I know that was quick. I just want to encourage people to take advantage of this. This is a great opportunity for multimodal funding of transportation infrastructure. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you,
Andrea, if they
Andrew.
need
Any
help with
questions?
if people need help with an application, they can reach out to.
Absolutely. You can reach out to me. Or there's, I think there's resources on the website too. There's also an FAQ section on the website that I think answers a lot of questions, but yeah, I'm Andrea Olson at utah.gov, OLSON.
People can also reach out to us at WFRC to
W-
help. If you're in Salt Lake County, reach out to Helen. I mean, like, there's a lot. We want to all work to get the resources to where they're needed.
Yes.
So we're all here to help.
Great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions before we ask Wayne to talk about what's that funding sources? Okay, Wayne, if you'll help us with that one, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me? Great. So as you're aware, WFRC administers several funding programs and or assists with those programs. And since we've got an application cycle coming up, we wanted to give you a brief overview of these funding programs. There are 3 types of funding programs. One type is transportation capital improvements, another is planning assistance, and a third is other federal grants. I'll talk about capital transportation improvements and then turn it to Meg Townsend for the other 2 categories of projects. So let's see here. Can we advance that? There we go. Thank you. So the Surface Transportation Program, this funding is available for highway improvements, for transit improvements, and for active transportation improvements. So it really covers the gamut there. And the CMAQ program, both the CMAQ program and the carbon reduction program are for projects that reduce mobile source emissions or emissions from vehicles. And then the Transportation Alternatives Program focuses on planning and construction of bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And with that, we'll turn it to Meg. Thanks.
Thank you, Wayne. Wayne talked about the capital transportation improvement programs. I am going to present the planning assistance programs as well as some other federal grants. So we have 2 planning assistance programs administered at the Wasatch Front Regional Council. That's the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program, which provides technical assistance for a wide range of planning, and it's available on the same annual schedule as those programs that Wayne just presented. Planning could be anything that integrates land use and transportation planning and implements the Wasatch Choice Vision. The other program is the Station Area Plan Technical Assistance Program, which you heard a lot about today. That is available on a rolling basis. So you can apply anytime and be awarded soon after. The TLC program is a partnership with UDOT, UTA, and Salt Lake County. The Station Area Planning Program is a partnership with UTA, GOEO, and the Mountain Land Association of Governments. So lots of partners at play there. Other federal grants that are administered here at the Wasatch Front Regional Council are the Community Development Block Grant that is managed by Christy Dahlberg, who has left the room. This is a federal grant program that provides funding for low and moderate income communities and funds primarily capital infrastructure projects. The application starts each fall with the How to Apply workshop that is mandatory to apply to this program. We administer this essentially within Morgan, Tooele, and Weber counties. So this does not apply to our entire region. That is because those other places are entitlement for CDBG. The CIB program is a grant loan program also administered by Christy Dahlberg. It can be applied for at any point during the year. CIB can fund planning and capital infrastructure projects in Morgan and Tooele counties. And then the Wasatch Front Economic Development District, one of our committees here at WFRC, is a federally recognized economic development district. The WFEDD fosters regional economic developments and assists eligible entities in developing competitive grants to the EDA. So we help you get funding from the EDA through the WFEDD. Marsha White, also not in the room, is the program lead on that one. The programs that Wayne talked about and TLC are all available on the same time frame. At the end of this month, you'll receive a request for letters of intent when those funding programs are announced after council meeting. After we receive those letters of intent at the end of September, that's the deadline, is September 28th. We'll review those and inform cities of their eligibility. If you're eligible, an application or a concept report will be due in December. I believe that's December 8th this year. And then we will review those. Awards are made for TLC in the spring and a little further out for the other programs, the short range programs under STP. Up on the screen is the contact info for all of these program leads. It doesn't matter who you call, we'll get you to the right person. But if you want the right phone numbers, they're up there, along with a screenshot of the funding packet that will go out shortly. So keep your eye out for that. It's really helpful when deciding what to apply to and for.
Mayor, quick comment. You don't have to know which program. If you have an idea, you have a need, just go ahead and send it our way and we'll help you figure out how to attach that to a program.
Yeah, the letter of intent is one and the same for those 5 programs up there. One letter of intent to rule them all.
That's good information
Thank
to
you.
know. Thank you. Okay. Any questions for Meg and Wayne? Okay. Great presentations, great information. I think we've learned a lot from today. Thank you for joining us. Let me just make a couple last comments, if you don't mind. Next meeting will be October 19th of this year, obviously. And with that, unless there's any other comments or questions, I'd like to take a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Again, thank you for joining us. Again, wonderful information.